Hello friends! Today I have a double page layout for you, and this is a special video because it's a collaboration with the creative design team where we've been showing you ideas to scrapbook large photos all week. So there have been some amazing projects before me. There are still a couple more to come, so be sure to check out the playlist if you've missed any. I'll have that at the end of this video as well as linked down below. So I have actually quite a few photos I'm going to fit on this layout, including a large photo. So I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 photos, and I've already trimmed them down. Now I did want to show you how I created the large photo. So I've got a little tutorial for you in just a bit, but I want to point out that I did leave a white border around it, but for some reason, sometimes my printer just ignores that white space at the bottom and kind of compensates for it. They kind of enlarge the photo a little bit and compensate for it and print to the edge. I'm not sure why. I know I've heard some of you have that same issue when printing on your Epson PM400 when you collage it and leave a white border. I print this on my Epson ET-8500, which is my just 8.5 by 11 photo printer, and I use this photo paper that I got from Costco years ago. It was like a whole ream, and you can see I have still a little bit left, but it's taken me a while to get through this. So it was pretty inexpensive too. But this is glossy, and normally I print on a semi-glossy or a luster paper, which is kind of almost matte. So since my large photo paper is glossy, I decided to print all of my photos glossy. You can get semi-gloss larger paper, but I just have all of this still. It works great, so that is what I used. Now what I'm thinking I'm going to use for my sketch is actually this. Now this is a sketch that I created in our creative design team membership, and this was a tip video that I did. We have a weekly tip video every week plus a full class video, and in this tip I showed exactly how to create a sketch in Cricut Design Space. Even if you don't have a Cricut Design Space is free, and that is exactly how I designed this. Our membership happens to be open right now just for a few more days, so check out the information in my description down below if you would like more information about our membership, because you will have this as a downloadable PDF, and a lot of our classes, probably 99% of our classes, also include a sketch with all of the dimensions and everything. So, you know, I 3-hole punch this and put this in an idea book binder, and that way I can reference all of the past classes, all of the sketches that were created by the designers, and it's an awesome resource. So you can see that my photos are completely different sizes, but what I'm going to do is use the look of this sketch, and I'm going to place my photos just a little bit differently. So I've got 2 4x6s over here, but you can see I've got the large one here, and I'm thinking I might add this one here or scoot this over and add it here. I'm not sure. I'll have to see how things play out. And then over here we've got a 4x6 already, so I've got that, and then we have 2 4x6 or 6x4 landscape. And so if you were to put 2 of these together, let's see, I think I'll do that. That way we have the wood background kind of diagonal from each other. There's not as much wood in this one, and there's a little grass in each of these. So these together make a 4x6, and these together make a 4x6. So it really is quite similar to the original, and over here we'll just kind of move things around a little bit. So let me talk paper, what I'm thinking. So I pulled in the Unbounded Beauty, or Unbounded Love? No, Unbounded Beauty is the paper. Collection, because there's a lot of really good colors in here. I had also considered using the Full of Life collection. Yes, Full of Life, which is a 6x6 pack. And if you look at this, my papers are larger than 6x6, but I was thinking I might be able to get it to work like these two. If I go like this, and if this was my piece over here, I could get these to line up. I could either make them kind of like a chevron, Or there was one point where I had them kind of lined up. They're pretty close. It's not a perfect match, but it's pretty close if you do it certain ways. But what the problem I had was these papers were they kind of were a little bit too similar. They were the ones that I liked for this. They all had too similar of a look. But if you have a 6x6 pad or paper pack that would work for your photos, you can definitely strategically place the photos so that you don't have as much paper showing. So what I could do is move this one up or move this one down a little bit so that this little piece isn't showing here. And then you have a smaller portion showing here. You could use a 6x6 here, and you could use, even cut this smaller or bump this up and move the embellishment over here so you don't see that, so that you can use a 6x6 over here. And same thing over here. If you move these maybe down, you can use 6x6s over here. You'd have a little bit of a harder time using a 6x6 here unless you're using the large photo, which is going to cover all of this, and then you'd have just a little piece sticking out here and here. So hopefully that makes sense. But since I'm going to be using larger paper, I'm just going to go ahead and cut to the directions of the sketch. But as far as paper selection, I was first thinking this paper because this is the only pattern in that pack that brings in all of the colors of the pack. But I don't really like the style with the photo. This photo, we were at a brewery called Prost, so I'm not sure if I'm going to title the page Prost, which I believe means cheers in German. It was a German brewery, and it was really, really cool. They had this live music back here. The kids were having so much fun on this little grassy area, and one of our friends, the dad, took this picture, and when he sent it to all of us, we were just like, oh my gosh, that turned out so cute. So I was really excited to blow this up and make it the feature photo. And I probably, if I were just scrapbooking it without this, large photo collab, I probably would have just printed it 4x6, maybe 5x7, just because those are kind of standard sizes. But isn't it really fun to see it so big? And just the juxtaposition of everything, the sunset with the lights up here and the lights on the stage and all of them posing in the colors that they're wearing, like, it's just the perfect photo. I was so, so happy. And I've got all of these supporting photos. How cute are they all giving hugs? Like, it was just such a fun night with the three of our families. We're all really good friends and do a lot of things together. The kids are all really great friends, and all our kids happen to be the same ages. So we all have an older and a younger. They're the same ages, but my son is the only boy, so he's always with a bunch of girls. Anyways, back to the paper selection. So I liked that this brought in all the colors, but I just didn't love the sketchy look of it with my photos. So then I pulled in this one, and I thought that looked really good with all of the orange that we have here and in the sunset. So I liked that back here. And then I like this one too, because actually my husband is wearing this color hat. But it's too similar of a pattern to this. They're pretty much the same pattern, just different colors. And I like this one better, so I decided to stick with that. Let's see, the back could work as well, but then I had one that was a better option. Here it is. So this one is a little sketchy too, but I think because it's a monochromatic look, it doesn't look as sketchy and it goes with the photo better. So I liked that being kind of an anchor over here, and then have this, let's see, it's gonna actually overlap a little bit. Have this over here, and then there weren't really any other photos in this pack that I liked. I don't like the look of this with these. It's just kind of a different style. I don't want so much orange. So then I thought, well, you know what if I bring in a wood grain, because we have a lot of wood tones in here. There's a lot of wood all over this brewery, backyard. So I brought in a few of the patterns from the Country Woods set, and I just wanted to try them. This one matches their pants, a lot of the girls' outfits, so that could work, but I don't know, it doesn't really do anything with me. I think I want a warmer tone to go more with the stage up there. So this one is a little bit darker, but it's still just not quite as warm. And then we have this one, and actually I really like that. It matches the warm tones of these papers as well as the stage up there, and I think that that looks really good. We have this one too, but I think that's a little bit too dark. So I am gonna go with these as my paper selections. I like also that the wood grain kind of breaks up all the florals, because if I had another floral pattern or another bright color from this pack, I think it would be just a little bit too bright, a little too overwhelming. So I think that this is going to work really well. I'll replicate it on both sides. So I'll go ahead and cut everything down, and then we will start assembling. Now let me show you how I printed this photo. Okay, so we've got my phone here, and typically the app that I like making my photos in if I'm going smaller is the Pick Frame app, because I can collage things onto a 4x6 really easily. But when I'm enlarging, I find that it's easier to use the Print to Size app, and this is actually the app that Erin uses regularly, and she's got a whole tutorial on her YouTube channel about it, and I will link to that. So what I'll do is I'll open that, and I'm going to give you a mini tutorial here. So I've got the last photo I printed here still, but what I'm going to do is just tap that and delete. And I need to change it. This is a 4x6 landscape, but you can set it to any size you want. So I'm going to set my paper size to US letter, because I'm using the 8.5 by 11 photo paper. And then I'll go back, and I think I'm going to set it at portrait. That way I can have a tall photo, since my photo is portrait. I'll click done, and now we're showing that it's US letter. Now we can zoom in and out by just pinching and squeezing if we want, or pinching and, you know, going in and out like that. Now, when we want to add a photo, we're just gonna hit this plus button right here, and I'm gonna tap on albums, because I know that the photo I want is in my favorites album. It's fairly recent as well. I'm gonna tap that and hit add, and that's the one that I want to be big. Now I don't know that I actually want it the full 8.5 by 11. I could go 8 by 10, but really, since I'm in here, I'm just going to be dragging the corners, and that keeps the aspect ratio. If I wanted to crop, I could actually pull down these little triangles on the sides and crop it, but I don't need to do that. So now we're not restricted to an 8 by 10 piece of paper or a 5 by 7 piece of paper. I can make it any size I want and drag it until I'm happy. So I could make it 8.1 by 11 is what it's at right now. But I'm gonna go to, let's see. Okay, I sized it down to 6.65 by 9. Now yours might be a little bit different depending on the aspect ratio. I did already go into this photo and did the editing and cropping how I wanted it, so the aspect ratio might be a little bit different for you, but I'm just gonna go ahead and go with it. Now, if you wanted to have a white border, you could just simply move it out just a little bit from the edges so that it prints with a white border. I'm gonna do that just to see how it looks. Typically, I like to add a paper white border just because I like the look of the dimension that it adds. And then I probably will add a second border as well. But I'll just go ahead and print it like this just so you can see what it looks like. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the print button, and you have some options here. You can print it straight from here if you want, and so it has my printer selected, or you can save it as a PDF or a JPEG, and that is typically what I would do. I'll walk you through what you'll do with each of them. Now this, sometimes it'll try to pull up my PM400. That's not going to work because that only prints to 5 by 7, so you do need to print on a normal printer. If you're looking for a good photo printer, I'm very happy with this Epson 8500. It prints beautifully and it has an eco tank. So that is what I am going to print on, and then you would just hit print. But I am going to save this as a JPEG first because that will give me some more options when I go to print. So we'll just hit save image here. Now, if you wanted to, you can add a whole bunch of photos around here, and typically that is what I'll do. Like if I want to add some 2x2 or 3x3 photos around a bigger photo that I'm printing, I'll add those too and add the little square photos so you can fill up all of this white space. But for this purpose, I am just going to keep it like this. So now what I'll do is I'll go to my photos, my camera roll, and I need to go back to my recents, and we have that right here. So you'll just see the white. If I tap that, you'll see that there's the white all around there. So I like to print from here because I have a little bit more control over the print settings. So I'm going to go to print, and then we'll go to my 8500 here. So you can see we've got more options here. I'm going to change this to letter, but then I'm going to change this to feed from the rear tray. I want to change the media type to photo, and I've got photo glossy paper. And then I want to make sure it prints at the best quality. If I printed through the app, I'm not sure if it would have all of these same settings. I've tried printing from there before. It seems like they don't have it on the best print setting and they don't have as many options. So this is just what I like to do. So then what I'll do is I'll hit print and it will go ahead and print my photo. I've got everything placed where I wanted it, and I added a white mat to my photos. Now I realized over here I cut everything according to the sketch, and I realized that I want this to bump out a little bit more because I have this photo here. Now I could have printed the photo a little smaller at 3x3. That would have looked good, but I don't want to reprint it. So what I did is I just grabbed this little piece that I trimmed off, and I'm just going to tuck this under. And I'm not going to have it go all the way to the edge, but just bump out a little bit more so that this photo has that going all the way around. And you're not even going to notice that little seam right there. And then over here, I want to bump this out a little bit more too. And we can more easily do that because we have so much hiding behind here. So this is what I mentioned in the beginning, where you could use the 6x6 paper because you could have just a little piece sticking out there, giving the illusion that it is going to span all the way across. And then I'll have this come out just a little bit more. So I didn't plan for that in the beginning, but since I have the photo here, the embellishment cluster was supposed to be here, so I'm just going to bump that up a little bit more right here. Now I do want to add a little bit of inking around the edges of everything just to make them pop a little bit more. And by the way, I did put everything on linen cardstock, but I'm second guessing that. I want to try White Daisy. I was originally thinking because the girls are wearing cream pants and it's just something a little different because I always work on White Daisy, but the truth is I just really like the crisp look of the White Daisy, so that's why I tend to gravitate towards it. So let's put these back in place and see what I think. Where did that other little piece go? There it is. So we don't have as much differentiation here, but I'm going to ink around those edges, so I think that will be okay. And you know what? I do like the white better. If you're someone who likes a colored background, then you can certainly add a colored background. I just happen to prefer the crisp white background, so I am going to go ahead and switch these out. All right, now that that's done, I'm going to go ahead and ink around the edges, and I'm going to be careful once I ink. I'm not going to set my photos down on my paper because more often than not I have done that and the ink is still wet around the edges and it gets on my project. So I'm just going to very gently, because the Stampin' Up ink pads are very juicy, go around the edges. I'm using Early Espresso which is the dark brown that's in the wood grain paper. And that is just going to help these photos pop a little bit off the background. And this is a way to kind of double matte your photos without actually double matting them, because I didn't want to take up the extra space of a second matte. So I think that looks good. So we've got it popping off here, and it's, even though it's tone on this wood grain, I think it helps to pop off that background too. So I'm going to go ahead and do all the papers and the photos. On this one though, since I'm tucking it against the other one, I'm just going to go on 3 sides. That way, when I lay this on top, you're not going to see the background there, and that will help to camouflage it even more. So I'll just go ahead and do the rest of these off camera, and we will come back to do the embellishing. All right, so I've got everything glued down and inked. And by the way, I wanted to mention that this mat right here, I gutted out the center since there's so much hidden, and then I was able to use that for my 4x6 photo. All right, so I'm gonna have an embellishment cluster here, here, and here. And let me kind of get an idea of what I want to do. So I cut out all of these little beer steins since we were at a brewery, even though there's no beer in the photos. But that is from this photo here, which is called Brewed for You. That was from Close to My Heart. Of course, that is retired now. But I thought it might be cute to put a couple of those kind of like cheersing in each of the clusters. So I thought I might start out that way. We'll put a couple up there and then a couple down here. But of course I want to build some layers to my clusters because that is just what I do. And there were some flowers that matched fairly well. It's not the exact match of this paper. There is some of that lighter color in here, but it matches Addie's dress really nicely. And then of course the beige that I thought about bringing in the background, I found some flowers with that color to go with this beige. And I thought that might be a good like neutral background that would pop well against these bright colors. So I thought I might kind of try that. Let's see, I think I'm going to try this one here. And then these beer steins can just kind of layer on top of there. I think I want to do a little bit more to this, but that is going to give us a start. And then let's try one up here, maybe like that. And then I'll try putting this one over. It's nice when you can tuck some in, put some over, and then we'll have this here. I'm thinking this is going to be my tile area here. On the sketch, the tile goes over here, but we have shorter photos, so I don't have as much room here. Typically, I like my title to be on the left side, but I am going to be okay with it being on the right. I'm going to turn this the other way so we can see more of the flowers. And then the beer steins can kind of go like that. I might add a little bit of inking back there too. All right, let me grab a couple more flowers. Let's see if these will look good over here.
I know that flowers don't necessarily go with the whole theme of the brewery, but I like the way it's mixing in with the beer steins and the whole look. Plus, I just like flowers, what can I say?
I cut a couple of these, and these are from the Deckled Circles set. This comes with tons of sizes of little circles. Another option if you don't have this set is this Spotlight on Nature set, which is typically the one I grab. I love this, but I thought with all of the little intricate details around these circles, and I have so much going on in this background already, I didn't want to bring more detail in the dies. So I decided to use the Deckled Circles instead. And I think I want to put this behind here, and see that's hiding this little seam anyway, which you can't really even see. And then I might tuck this one here. I'll have to, I left some room under the photo. I never adhere straight to the edge, but there we go. And then we already have white up here, so those are popping off there. And I put this on this side because it's closer to the purple, and then we draw the purple over here. But I'm thinking I might bring in some Berry Burst inking on these little landing spots and behind here. Before I do that though, let me actually bring in my title.
I did decide to just call this layout Prost because I thought it was appropriate to say cheers for this fun evening. This alphabet is from the Alphabet a la Mode set, which is the perfect size to fit right here. I've got a little exclamation point here, and I didn't bring in the dot yet because I didn't want to lose it. I have it off to the side in a little tray. I also have these little flowers that were in the same set as these bigger flowers. It's in the Flowering Ephemera pack, and I will of course link everything that I'm using here down in the description below. Just click see more under the title. All right, now I want to try my inking, and this color can be pretty dark, so I want to make sure I get some of the ink off of my blending brush before I start doing the blending. And I don't want the ink to be right behind that purple flower because that's going to be too much of the same color on top of each other. So I'm going to go further over to the right, and don't ask me why I started the inking from the top. I meant to have it radiating out from the flowers, going from the inside of the flowers up, but for some reason I started at the top, but that's okay. It still looks okay. And then I'm going to add some ink on these little circles as well, just to add a little bit of extra color and detail there. And I think that looks good, so I'll go ahead and do that to this other one right here. I didn't end up re-inking my blending brush at all for any of this inking, so it's just the ink that was left on there. I thought that it might look nice to add a little bit more of this berry burst as just a teeny little bit behind the title. So I like that, and I went ahead with that and glued everything down off camera. And then I found this other set called Cheers, My Dears. This is another oldie but goodie from Close to My Heart. And there are all of these fun sayings on here. This one says, sip, sip, hooray. The other one said group therapy. And I thought that these were kind of fun and appropriate for the theme and the fun evening that we had. So this group therapy one, I decided to stamp onto another little circle from that same Deckled Circles set. And I inked behind that one as well, and then I will stamp on that in Archival Black. I did all the inking around the edges in the Early Espresso, but I also added a little black. All of the ink for the stamped images is black. It's just the inking around the edges. And so I did ink around the edge of this as well as those other circles that I had put down as well. I did that off camera. I'm going to also do a little bit of inking again. I didn't re-ink that blending brush right behind where this Sip Sip Hooray is going to be, and I think that this looks really good. I decided to put this circle right about here. It seemed like it needed something there, and then I added another little small flower kind of tucked behind that as well. And then I dug really deep in my stash and I found this really old stamp of the month. It's called Candlelight Wishes, I think. And it had this string of lights. I've never used this stamp set, but I've hung on to it because I just thought it was so pretty. And I'm so glad that I did because this is just the perfect opportunity to use it. So I lined it up, and it was a little tricky to line up. I had to make sure all of the tops of the strands of lights were even. So I had to kind of readjust it on my block actually off camera to make sure that was all even. And I'm going to stamp it in a couple of spots here right on the layout. It's always nerve-wracking to stamp right on your background layout, especially when I've gotten this far. So I just made sure I was really careful and I tested my image first. Now I'm taking a really light yellow Copic marker and I'm just coloring in all of those little lights. And then I'm going to take my gold shimmer brush and I'm going to kind of messily color on top of it so it gives it a little bit of shine and makes it look like it's glowing. And it's really hard to see on camera, but it looks so pretty in person. Now the finishing touch is just some rhinestones. I do have these in color rhinestones that I could have used, but I decided just to add some clear rhinestones. This is the Stampin' Up! Clear rhinestones, and I was showing you the Close to My Heart ones. They're very similar, but the Close to My Heart, the Stampin' Up! Ones here have 3 different sizes. And so I'm just adding a few in each cluster, and then that is going to finish this up, and I will bring this up closer so you can see all of the detail close up. And of course, I will have still shots over on Instagram and Facebook, and all of my social media is linked down below. If you enjoyed this video, I hope that you give it a thumbs up, and please consider subscribing if you haven't already. I do post scrapbooking videos every week. Now be sure to check out the rest of the Creative Design Team's videos using large photos. That playlist is on the right. And to see another one of my videos, click the one on the left. That's the one YouTube recommends for you. Thanks for watching and have a great day.